The moment Commander Bellows knelt before Taiho, something changed in the great chamber. It was like a wave spreading across water. One by one, other delegates began to rise from their platforms. One by one, they floated down to the floor. And one by one, they knelt. First came the officers of the Velar Empire, following their commander's example. Their massive blue bodies bent low, their forearms pressed against the cold stone floor. Then came the delegates of the Silk Collective, their flowing robes pooling around them like colorful puddles. The Stone Lords followed, their heavy bodies creaking as they lowered themselves with difficulty. Taiho watched in silence as more and more delegates knelt. Species he did not know, faces he had never seen, all bowing before him. Some had tears in their eyes. Some had shame, some had wonder, but all of them knelt. "Please," Taiho said, his voice slightly unsteady for the first time. "This is not necessary. Please stand." But they did not stand. They remained kneeling, their heads bowed in respect. The soldier who had been mocked and laughed at for 3 days was now being honored by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Queen Nari remained on her throne, watching with satisfaction. She had known this would happen. She had known that the truth would change everything. But even she was moved by what she saw. The galaxy was a hard, cold place. Kindness was rare. Humility was rarer. And true heroism was almost forgotten. But today, in this chamber, all three had come together in one small human man. After a long moment, Taiho spoke again. His voice was stronger now, back to its usual calm. "I am honored by your respect, but please rise. We have important work to do. The enemy from the outer darkness has not been defeated. They are still out there, waiting. And if we spend our time kneeling to each other, they will come and destroy us all." Commander Bellows rose first. He looked at Taiho with new eyes. "You are right. We have work to do. But first, I must ask you something." "Ask. Will you teach us?" "The way you fight, the way you move, the way you survived the burning gate. Will you share your knowledge with us?" Taiho thought for a moment. "I can teach you techniques. I can teach you strategies. But what happened at the gate cannot be taught. It was not skill that kept me alive. It was something else." "What was it?" Commander Bellows asked. Taiho looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of everyone who was watching him. "It was the faces in my mind. The 3 billion people who were fleeing to safety behind me. Every time I wanted to give up, I thought of them. Every time the pain became too much, I imagined their faces. Children, parents, elders, ordinary people who just wanted to live." His voice became softer, almost gentle. "You ask how I survived 7 days at the gate. The answer is simple. I did not fight for glory. I did not fight for honor. I fought for love. Love for people I had never met and would never know. Love for life itself." The chamber was completely silent. These were not the words anyone had expected from a legendary warrior. They were the words of a poet, a philosopher, a priest. Queen Nari stood from her throne, and that is why humanity matters. That is why their voices should be heard in this council. Not because they are strong, not because they are advanced, but because they remember something that we have forgotten. Something that we need desperately to remember. She walked down from her platform and stood beside Taiho. Together, they faced the gathered delegates. "The war against the outer darkness is not just a war of weapons and ships," Queen Nari said. "It is a war for what we believe in. It is a war for our souls. And if we lose our souls, if we forget why life matters, then we have already lost." She placed her hand on Taiho's shoulder. This man remembered. When everyone around him was dying, when hope itself was dead, he remembered. And because he remembered, 3 billion people are alive today. Taiho looked up at her. "Your Majesty, I am just one soldier. There are many like me on Earth. many who would stand as I stood, many who would fight as I fought. This is not a unique human gift. It is a choice that anyone can make. Then teach us to make that choice, said a delegate from the Silk Collective. Her voice was humble, almost pleading. Teach us to fight for love instead of power. I cannot teach what must be felt, Taiho replied. But I can tell you this. The next time you are afraid, the next time you want to give up, think of someone you love. Think of their face. Think of their voice. And then ask yourself, would I let them die if I could prevent it? He paused. The answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know. The council session continued, but everything was different now. Delegates who had ignored Taiho now asked for his opinion. Species who had mocked humanity now listened with respect. Commander Bellows sat close to Taiho's platform, not to mock him, but to learn from him. Plans were made to strengthen the defenses against the outer darkness. Resources were shared. Alliances were formed. And through it all, the small human soldier sat quietly on his platform, offering advice when asked, listening carefully when others spoke. When the session finally ended, Queen Nari called Taiho to her throne for a private word. The other delegates gave them space, floating their platforms away to a respectful distance. You could have revealed your identity yourself, Queen Nari said. You could have demanded respect from the beginning. Why did you not? Taiho thought about the question. Because respect that is demanded is not real respect. And because my past should not matter. Only my actions in the present should matter. A humble answer. Perhaps too humble. Perhaps. Taiho smiled slightly, the first real smile he had shown since arriving at the station. But it is the human way. We are young, as everyone keeps reminding us. We are still learning who we want to be. And I think we want to be the kind of people who earn respect rather than demand it. Queen Nari nodded slowly. You are wise, Taiho. Wiser than many who have lived for thousands of years. I am not wise, Taiho said. I am just old enough to know that I know very little. The queen laughed. It was a surprising sound, warm and genuine. Then perhaps that is wisdom after all. As Taiho turned to leave, Queen Nari spoke one more time. The galaxy will not forget you again. The truth is out now. You will be famous whether you want it or not. Taiho stopped and looked back at her. Fame is a burden I did not want. But if carrying it helps my people, I will carry it. And if the enemy comes again? If another gate needs to be held? Taiho's eyes grew distant for a moment. The calm surface rippled, and something deeper showed through. Something that had faced death 1,000 times and never looked away. Then I will hold it, he said simply. For as long as I can, for as long as it takes. He walked out of the chamber, his steps quiet on the stone floor. Behind him, hundreds of delegates watched him go. They would tell stories about this day for generations. The day a human taught the galaxy what courage really meant. Commander Bellows caught up with Taiho in the hallway outside. Wait, he called. I want to say something. Taiho stopped and turned. I was your enemy 3 days ago, Commander Bellows said. Today, I wish to be your friend. Will you allow this? Taiho studied the massive Velar warrior. Then he extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Commander Bellows looked at the hand with confusion. Take it, Taiho said. It is how my people seal friendships. Commander Bellows reached out with one of his forearms and gently wrapped his huge fingers around Taiho's small hand. They shook once. Friends, Commander Bellows said. Friends. Taiho agreed as they walked together toward the docking bay. Taiho felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. Not hope for himself, but hope for the future. Hope that different species could work together. Hope that the galaxy might actually survive what was coming. His transport shuttle was waiting. Before he boarded, he turned and looked back at the great station floating in the darkness of space. Earth stands ready, he said quietly, repeating the words he had spoken at the beginning. But now, those words meant something different. They were not a promise made by a small, ignored species. They were a promise made by equals. A promise that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Taiho boarded his shuttle and began the long journey home. The ghost of Andrus was returning to Earth, but his legend would stay behind, spreading across the galaxy like a light in the darkness. And somewhere, in the depths of the outer darkness, the enemy was watching. They had heard the stories. They remembered the man who had held the burning gate. And for the first time in their ancient existence, they felt something like fear. The war was not over. The future was not certain. But one thing was clear. The humans were here to stay, and the galaxy would never be the same. The chamber was completely still. Every delegate, every guard, every servant stared at Queen Nari with wide eyes. Her words hung in the air like thunder that had not yet finished rolling across the sky. A legend? Commander Belos laughed, but the sound was weak and uncertain. Your Majesty, with respect, this is just a human. What legend could possibly? Silence, Queen Nari commanded. Her voice was cold as starlight. Commander Belos closed his mouth immediately. No one disobeyed the Queen when she spoke in that tone. Queen Nari turned back to Taiho. The human soldier stood before her, his face still calm, but something had changed in his eyes. A wall was coming down. A secret was about to be revealed. Tell me, the Queen said, do you still carry the scar? The one shaped like a star on your left shoulder? The delegates looked confused. What kind of question was this? But Taiho understood. He slowly reached up and pulled aside the torn collar of his uniform. There, on his left shoulder, was a scar. It was old and faded, but its shape was clear. A perfect six-pointed star burned into his skin. Queen Nari nodded. The mark of the gate. I thought so. She turned to face the council once more. Her voice became formal, the voice she used when making official declarations. 20 years ago, before humanity joined the Galactic Council, a great war was fought at the edge of known space. The Collapse War, we called it. The enemy from the outer darkness had broken through our defenses and was sweeping across the Eastern Rim. World after world fell. Billions died. It seemed that nothing could stop them. The older delegates nodded. They remembered. Some of them had lost friends, family, entire homeworlds during the Collapse War. It was the darkest time in galactic history. The enemy's goal was to reach the burning gate, Queen Nari continued. A natural wormhole that connected the Eastern Rim to the core worlds of the galaxy. If they had reached it, they would have poured through like a flood. The war would have been over. We would have lost everything. She paused, letting the memory settle over the chamber like a heavy cloud. Our armies were scattered. Our fleets were destroyed. There was no one left to defend the gate. It would have fallen within hours. But it did not fall, said an old delegate from the Silk Collective. Her voice was soft with memory. The gate held. For 7 days, it held, and that gave us enough time to regroup and push the enemy back. No one knows how it happened. The records say that a single unit of soldiers held the gate, but the details were classified. Sealed by order of the throne. Queen Nari smiled, but there was no joy in it. I sealed those records myself, because the truth was too extraordinary, too impossible. I did not want it to become a weapon in political games. She looked at Taiho. The burning gate was not held by a unit of soldiers. It was held by one man. The chamber exploded with noise. Delegates shouted in disbelief. Some laughed. Some demanded proof. Commander Belos was shaking his massive head, his forearms waving in denial. Impossible! He roared. One man cannot hold a position against the enemy. Their numbers were endless. Their weapons were unstoppable. Even our greatest champions fell before them like leaves in a storm. And yet the gate held, Queen Nari said calmly. For 7 days and 7 nights, one soldier stood at the burning gate. He did not sleep. He did not rest. He did not retreat. When his weapons ran out, he fought with his hands. When his armor broke, he fought in his skin. When his body failed, he fought with his will alone. She walked closer to Taiho, her silver face reflecting the red emergency lights that still filled the chamber. The enemy threw everything at him. Thousands of their warriors. Dozens of their war machines. But he would not fall. He could not fall. Because behind him were the evacuation ships carrying 3 billion refugees from the fallen worlds. If the gate fell, they would all die. The chamber had become quiet again. The delegates were listening now, really listening. When our reinforcements finally arrived on the 8th day, Queen Nari said, they found the gate still standing. The ground around it was covered with enemy dead, piled so high that they formed walls. And in the center of all that death, one man was still fighting, bleeding from 100 wounds. Broken in body, but unbroken in spirit. Still holding the line, she turned to face the council. The soldiers who found him called him the ghost of Andrus because he had done what only a ghost could do. He had died 1,000 times, but refused to stay dead. The enemy themselves began to fear him. They thought he was a demon or a god. They retreated from the gate not because our reinforcements arrived, but because they were afraid of him. Commander Bellows had stopped protesting. He was staring at Taiho with a new expression on his face. Something that might have been the beginning of fear. For his actions, the soldier was offered every honor the galaxy could give, Queen Nari said. Medals, titles, wealth, power. He refused them all. He asked only for one thing, to be forgotten, to return to his home and live in peace. She looked at Taiho with something like sadness in her starlight eyes. His request was granted. The records were sealed. The truth was hidden. And the ghost of Andrus disappeared from history. Taiho finally spoke. His voice was quiet, almost tired. I did what needed to be done. It was not heroism. It was necessity. That is exactly what a true hero would say, Queen Nari replied. But necessity does not explain what you did. Courage does. Sacrifice does. Love for strangers you had never met and would never know. You saved 3 billion lives, and you asked for nothing in return except the chance to be forgotten. She addressed the council again. And this is the man you have mocked. This is the man you have called weak and worthless. The greatest warrior any of us has ever seen, and you laughed at him because he is human. The silence was crushing. Commander Bellows looked like he had been struck by lightning. His blue skin had turned pale. His forearms hung limp at his sides. He could not meet Taiho's eyes. But why? Asked a delegate from the Stone Lords. Why did Earth send him here? Why reveal his identity now? I did not reveal my identity, Taiho said. I came here as a simple soldier because that is what I am. My past does not matter. Only the present matters. Only the future matters. He came because Earth believes in this council, Queen Nari said. He came because his people want peace and cooperation, not glory or conquest. He came humble when he could have come proud. He came silent when he could have come demanding respect. That is the human way, perhaps. To let actions speak louder than words. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate in turn. I will say this once, and I will say it clearly. Any species that produces a man like Taiho is not weak. Any species that raises soldiers who would stand alone against impossible odds to protect strangers is not worthless. Any species that chooses peace over pride, service over glory, is not primitive. Her voice rose, filling the chamber like music. Humans may be young. They may be new to the galaxy. But they have something that many of us have forgotten. They have heart. They have courage that does not come from strength or technology or long life. It comes from somewhere deeper, somewhere that makes them willing to die for people they have never met. Taiho stood still, his face unchanged, but his eyes glistened slightly in the red light. Perhaps it was a trick of the light. Perhaps it was something else. "I do not deserve this praise, Your Majesty," he said softly. "Many others fought and died during the Collapse War. Many others held the lines while I held the gate. I was just one soldier among many." "No," Queen Nari said firmly. "You were not. You were the one who gave the rest of us hope." The story of the ghost of Andrus spread through the armies. Soldiers who were ready to give up heard about the man who would not fall, and they found the strength to keep fighting. "You saved more than 3 billion lives, Taiho. You saved the spirit of the galaxy itself." She stepped back and sat on her throne once more. Her formal toned, "From this day forward, let it be known that humanity has proven itself worthy of a place on this council. Not through technology, not through conquest, through the thing that matters most, the willingness to sacrifice for others." She looked at Commander Bellows. "Commander, I believe you owe our human colleague an apology." Commander Bellows was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he floated his platform down to the floor. He stepped off and walked toward Taiho. His massive body seemed smaller now. Humbled by the truth he had learned, he stopped in front of the human and looked down at him. Then, to the shock of everyone in the chamber, Commander Bellows went down on one knee. "I was wrong," he said. His voice was rough with emotion. "I was arrogant and foolish. Forgive me." Taiho looked at the kneeling Velen warrior. Then he did something unexpected. He reached out and placed his hand on Commander Bellows' shoulder. "There is nothing to forgive," he said simply. "You did not know. Now you do. That is enough." Commander Bellows looked up with surprise in his eyes. He had expected anger, resentment, or cold satisfaction. He had received none of these. He had received something far more unexpected. He had received kindness. The third day of the council session began like the others. Delegates arrived at the great chamber, floating to their platforms, talking and making deals. Taiho stood on his small platform at the edge, watching everything with his quiet, dark eyes. Commander Bellows had already made 2 jokes about humans before the session officially started. The laughter had become normal now, expected, but something felt different today. Taiho noticed it immediately. Small things that most people would miss. Guards who stood in slightly different positions. Servants who moved with unusual purpose. Shadows in the corners of the chamber that seemed too dark, too solid. Taiho's body tensed slightly. Years of training in combat had given him senses that most people did not have. He could feel danger the way some animals could feel storms coming. And right now, every nerve in his body was screaming a warning. Queen Nari entered the chamber on her platform of light. She sat on her throne and began to speak about the day's agenda. Her voice was calm and strong. She had no idea what was about to happen, but Taiho knew. He watched the shadows. He counted the seconds. He calculated distances in his mind. Then it happened. The lights in the chamber went out all at once. Complete darkness swallowed everything. Screams echoed through the room as delegates panicked. Platforms crashed into each other as people tried to flee in random directions. In the darkness, Taiho moved. He did not panic. He did not scream. He simply stepped off his platform and fell toward the floor. His body twisted in the air, controlled and precise. He landed softly on the stone below, silent as a cat. His eyes adjusted quickly to the darkness. He could see shapes moving, shadows within shadows. Assassins. At least 12 of them, dressed in suits that made them nearly invisible. They were heading toward the Queen's throne, weapons drawn. The first assassin did not see Taiho coming. One moment he was running toward the throne. The next moment, a hand grabbed his neck and twisted. He fell without making a sound. Taiho took the assassin's weapon. It was a strange blade, curved and glowing with a faint purple light. He had never seen anything like it before. But a weapon was a weapon. He knew how to use it. The second assassin turned just in time to see a shadow racing toward him. He raised his own blade, but Taiho was faster. The purple blade cut through the air and found its target. The assassin dropped. Dot 3 and 4 came together. Taiho moved between them like water flowing through rocks. He struck once, twice, 3 times. Bodies fell. The fight was silent and brutal. The emergency lights flickered on, dim red light filling the chamber. Now everyone could see what was happening. They could see the assassins closing in on the Queen's throne. They could see the guards who had been killed at their posts. They could see the chaos and terror that had taken over the great chamber, and they could see the human. Taiho was a blur of motion in the red light. He moved through the assassins like they were standing still. His borrowed blade danced in his hands, cutting and slashing with perfect accuracy. His body twisted and turned, dodging attacks that should have killed him. Commander Bellows watched from his platform with wide eyes. His mouth hung open. He could not believe what he was seeing. This was not possible. Humans were weak. Humans were fragile. Humans were nothing. But the human in the chamber below was not nothing. He was death in human form. 5 assassins fell. Then 6. Then 7. Each one died faster than the last. Taiho did not waste movements. Every step had purpose. Every strike had meaning. He was not fighting like a soldier. He was fighting like a force of nature. One of the assassins finally reached the Queen's throne. He raised his blade to strike. Queen Nari stood facing him, her face calm even in the face of death. She did not flinch. She did not cry. She was a queen, and she would die like one. But she did not die. Taiho appeared behind the assassin like a ghost. His blade went through the assassin's back and out through his chest. The assassin looked down at the blade in surprise, then collapsed. More assassins came. They had realized that the human was the real threat now. They forgot about the queen and focused on Taiho. 8 of them surrounded him, their invisible suits rippling as they moved. Taiho stood still in the center of the circle. His breath was steady. His eyes were clear. He held his borrowed blade loosely in his right hand. "Who are you?" one of the assassins asked. His voice was filled with something that might have been fear. "What are you?" Taiho did not answer with words. He moved. The fight lasted exactly 4 seconds. When it was over, 8 assassins lay on the ground, and Taiho stood alone in the center of the circle. He was breathing slightly harder now. A thin line of blood ran down his left arm, where a blade had found its mark. But he was alive, and his enemies were not. The chamber was completely silent. Every delegate stared at the human with shock and disbelief. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the emergency alarms seemed to have stopped, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Taiho looked around slowly. He counted the bodies on the ground. 12 assassins. All dead. The queen was safe. The threat was over. He dropped the borrowed blade. It clattered on the stone floor, the sound impossibly loud in the silence. Then he walked toward the Queen's throne and knelt on one knee. "Your Majesty," he said. His voice was quiet and calm, as if nothing unusual had happened. "Are you hurt?" Queen Nari looked down at him. Her starlight eyes were wide, filled with an emotion that no one in the chamber could read. She did not answer his question. Instead, she asked her own, "How did you do that?" Taiho did not look up. "I am a soldier, Your Majesty. This is what soldiers do." "No," Queen Nari said slowly. "That is not what ordinary soldiers do. I have seen warriors from 1,000 worlds. I have seen champions and heroes and legends. But I have never seen anything like what you just did." Taiho said nothing. He remained kneeling, his head bowed. Commander Bellows finally found his voice. He floated his platform down toward the floor, his face pale with shock. "This is impossible," he said. "Humans cannot move like that. Humans cannot fight like that. This must be some kind of trick." "It is no trick," Queen Nari said. Her voice was sharp. "I saw it with my own eyes. We all did." She stepped down from her throne and walked toward Taiho. The delegates gasped. Queens did not walk among common people. Queens did not approach kneeling soldiers. But Queen Nari did not seem to care about tradition at this moment. She stopped in front of Taiho and looked down at him. "Rise," she commanded. Taiho stood. He was shorter than her. This human who had just killed 12 assassins in less than a minute. His uniform was torn. Blood stained his arm. But his eyes were still calm, still dark, still hiding secrets. "Tell me who you truly are," Queen Nari said. "And do not say you are just a soldier. I know soldiers. You are something more." Taiho met her gaze. For a long moment, he said nothing. The entire chamber waited, desperate to hear his answer. But before Taiho could speak, Queen Nari's eyes widened. She looked at him more closely, studying his face, his stance, the way he held himself. Something like recognition flickered in her starlight eyes. "Wait," she whispered. "I know you. I have seen your face before. In the records. In the secret files that only the throne can access." Taiha's expression did not change. But something shifted in his eyes. A door that had been closed for a long time was about to be opened. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "perhaps this is not the place for—" "No," Queen Nari interrupted. Her voice was firm. "The Council will know the truth. They have mocked you for 3 days. They have called your species weak and worthless. It is time they learned how wrong they were." She turned to face the gathered delegates. Her voice rang out across the chamber like a bell. "Listen well, all of you. You have made a terrible mistake. You have insulted and humiliated this man, thinking he was nothing. But this man is not nothing." She paused, letting the tension build. "This man is a legend." The great war chamber was full when Taiho arrived. Hundreds of delegates sat on their floating platforms, arranged in circles that rose toward the distant ceiling. The most powerful species sat near the center, close to the raised throne where the Galactic Queen would soon appear. The less important species sat farther out. And at the very edge, almost touching the walls, sat Taiho on his small platform. He had not eaten breakfast. He had not slept much either. But his eyes were clear and his body was still. He watched as the chamber filled with noise and movement. Alien voices mixed together in a sound like a strange ocean. Colors flashed as delegates showed off their wealth with expensive clothes and glowing jewelry. The air smelled of 100 different perfumes from 100 different worlds. A loud sound echoed through the chamber. Everyone became quiet. A door opened at the top of the room, and a figure floated down on a platform made of pure light. It was Queen Nari, the ruler of the Galactic Throne, the most powerful person in the known universe. She was beautiful in a way that was hard to describe. Her skin was pale silver, and her eyes were like 2 small stars. Long white hair flowed behind her like water. She wore a simple black dress that seemed to eat the light around it. She looked ancient and young at the same time, wise and dangerous. Queen Nari sat on her throne and looked out at the gathered delegates. Her voice filled the chamber without effort. "Welcome to the War Council. We are here to discuss the growing threat from the outer darkness. Reports say that the enemy is moving again. They have destroyed 3 outpost worlds in the last cycle. We must decide how to respond. The discussions began. One by one, delegates spoke about their plans, their fears, their demands. The Velar Empire wanted to attack immediately. The Silk Collective wanted to negotiate. The Stone Lords wanted to build more defenses. Everyone had opinions. Everyone wanted something. Taiho listened carefully. He learned that the enemy they called the Outer Darkness was a mysterious force that came from beyond the edge of known space. No one knew what they really were. Some said they were machines. Some said they were monsters. Some said they were gods who had gone mad. But everyone agreed on one thing. They were deadly. After many hours of talk, Commander Belos rose on his platform. He floated toward the center of the chamber, closer to the Queen's throne. His voice boomed across the room. "Your Majesty, I wish to speak about the defense plans for the Eastern Rim." Queen Nari nodded. "Speak, Commander. We need more soldiers at the Eastern Rim. The attacks have been strongest there. I propose that all council members send troops to support our defense line." He paused and smiled in an unpleasant way. All council members, including the newest ones. Many delegates turned to look at Taiho. The human did not react. Queen Nari's expression did not change. "Earth has only recently joined the council. Perhaps we should not burden them with—" "No, Your Majesty," Commander Belos interrupted. His voice was loud and confident. "If humans want to be part of this council, they must share the responsibility. They must prove they are worthy." He turned to look directly at Taiho. "What say you, human? Will Earth send soldiers to die at the Eastern Rim?" The chamber became very quiet. This was a trap, and everyone knew it. If Taiho said yes, humans would be thrown into a war they did not understand. If he said no, humans would be seen as cowards who only wanted protection without giving anything back. Taiho stood up slowly. He felt hundreds of alien eyes watching him. He walked to the edge of his platform and spoke in his quiet, calm voice. "Earth will honor its obligations to the Council." Commander Belos laughed. "Honor? What does a human know about honor? Your species spent thousands of years killing each other over small pieces of land. You destroyed your own world with pollution and greed. What can humans teach us about honor?" Some delegates laughed. Others shook their heads in disgust. The room was full of contempt for the small humans standing alone at the edge of the chamber. Taiho did not argue. He did not defend humanity's history. He simply said, "We are here now. That is what matters." Commander Belos floated closer to Taiho's platform. His massive body blocked the light, casting a shadow over the human. "Let me tell you something, little soldier. I have seen humans in battle. I have seen your finest warriors. Do you know what I saw?" Taiho waited. "I saw children playing with toys," Commander Belos said. "Your weapons are primitive. Your bodies are fragile. Your lives are short and meaningless. A human soldier is nothing compared to a Velo warrior. We are stronger, faster, and we live for thousands of years. What is a human life? A brief flash, like a spark that dies before anyone notices it." The laughter was louder now. Many delegates were enjoying this show. The mighty Velar commander was humiliating the human representative in front of the entire council. It was entertaining. Commander Belos continued. "I have a suggestion, Your Majesty. Instead of wasting valuable transport ships to bring human soldiers to the Eastern Rim, let us save everyone the trouble. Let the humans guard their own little planet. They can pretend to be warriors while the real soldiers do the real work." Queen Nari's face remained calm, but something flickered in her starlight eyes. "Commander Belos, every council member has the right to contribute to our common defense." "Contribute what?" Commander Belos laughed again. "Humans have nothing to contribute. They are babies in the universe. Let them grow up first. Maybe in 1,000 years, they will be ready to stand with real warriors." He turned back to Taiho with a cruel smile. "Do you have anything to say, human?" Any defense for your pathetic species? Taiho looked at Commander Bellows for a long moment. Then he looked around the chamber at all the faces watching him. Some were amused. Some were bored. Some were sympathetic but afraid to speak up. He saw the truth of his situation clearly. He was alone. His people were alone. The galaxy did not respect them. The galaxy did not fear them. The galaxy did not even really see them. When Taiho spoke, his voice was still quiet, still calm. I have nothing to prove to you, Commander. I did not come here to argue about which species is better. I came here to serve my people and to honor our commitment to this council. Commander Bellows snorted. Such pretty words. But words are empty. Action is what matters. And humans are not capable of meaningful action. You are too weak, too soft, too afraid. Perhaps, Taiho said. He returned to his seat and sat down. We will see. The discussions continued. Other topics were raised, other arguments were made. But the mood in the chamber had changed. Many delegates looked at Taiho with pity. Some looked at him with contempt. A few looked at him with something like respect for his composure under such humiliation. But Commander Bellows was not finished. Throughout the rest of the session, he found reasons to mock humans. He mentioned human weaknesses during discussions of military strategy. He joked about human lifespans during debates about long-term planning. He questioned whether humans could even understand complex ideas. Each time, Taiho said nothing. He sat on his platform at the edge of the chamber, watching and listening. His face never changed. His hands never clenched. He was like a statue made of patience. When the session finally ended, delegates began to leave. Commander Bellows made sure to pass close to Taiho's platform one more time. Go home, little human, he said softly. Tell your leaders that the galaxy has no place for you. Save yourselves the embarrassment of trying to compete with your betters. Taiho looked up at him. Thank you for your advice, Commander. Commander Bellows frowned, confused by the calm response. He had expected anger, fear, or tears. He had received nothing. The human's dark eyes revealed nothing at all. Stupid creature, Commander Bellows muttered. He floated away, surrounded by his laughing officers. Taiho remained on his platform until the chamber was almost empty. Then he stood up and walked quietly back to his small room. He closed the door behind him and sat on the hard bed. For a long moment, he did nothing. Then, slowly, he lifted his hand and looked at it. The hand was perfectly steady. No shaking, no trembling. Good, he thought. I can still control it. The old fire had stirred inside him during the session, the anger that he had buried long ago. But he had kept it contained. He had not let it show. Not yet, the fire whispered from deep inside him. But soon, when the time is right, Taiho closed his eyes and breathed slowly. The time was not right. Not yet. For now, he would endure. He would wait. He would watch. And when the moment came, he would show them all exactly what a human was capable of. The ship was massive. It floated in the darkness of space like a silver moon, bigger than any city on Earth. Taiho looked through the small window of his transport shuttle and felt his heart beat faster. He had seen many things in his life. He had fought in wars that most people could not imagine. But this was different. This was the Galactic Council Station, where the most powerful beings in the universe gathered to make decisions about the fate of billions. Taiho was not a tall man. He stood at average height with a simple face that most people would forget. His hair was black and cut short in military style. His eyes were dark and calm, like deep water that hid many secrets. He wore a plain gray uniform with no medals, no ribbons, no signs of rank. Just a small Earth symbol on his shoulder. Nothing more. The shuttle docked with a soft sound. The doors opened and Taiho stepped out into a wide hallway made of white stone that seemed to glow from inside. The air smelled strange, like flowers he had never seen mixed with something cold and metallic. Alien guards stood at the entrance. They were from the Velar Empire, tall creatures with blue skin and 4 arms. Each one was at least 8 feet tall. They looked down at Taiho like he was an insect. One of the guards made a sound that the translator in Taiho's ear turned into words. "This is the human representative? They sent one soldier?" The other guard laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. "Maybe the humans have no one else. Their planet is so small. Their people are so weak." Taiho said nothing. He simply walked forward, his boots making soft sounds on the stone floor. The guards watched him pass with amusement in their eyes. They did not try to stop him. Why would they? He was just a human. Humans were the newest members of the galactic community. They were considered primitive, barely worth noticing. The hallway led to a great chamber where many aliens had already gathered. Taiho stopped at the entrance and looked around. The room was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. Floating platforms held delegates from dozens of species. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had bodies made of light or shadow. All of them were talking, making deals, forming alliances. And all of them were ignoring the human who had just entered. A small robot floated to Taiho's side. "Human delegate, please follow me to your assigned position," it said in a flat voice. Taiho followed the robot through the crowd. As he walked, he heard whispers. His translator caught pieces of conversations. "Is that a human? They look so fragile. I heard their bones break easily, like dry sticks. Why did the council even invite them? Humans have nothing to offer. They live such short lives. What can they possibly understand about the universe?" Taiho kept walking. His face showed nothing. No anger, no shame, no pride. Just calm emptiness, like a lake without wind. The robot led him to a small platform near the edge of the chamber. It was the lowest platform, the one farthest from the center where the important delegates sat. Taiho stepped onto it and stood with his hands behind his back. He did not sit down even though there was a chair. He simply stood and watched. Hours passed. Taiho did not move. He did not eat or drink the strange foods that service robots offered. He just watched and listened. He learned the faces of the powerful ones. He memorized the way they talked, the deals they made, the lies they told with smiles on their faces. A group of Velar officers noticed him standing there like a statue. They floated their platform closer, curious about this strange creature. "Human," one of them called out. He was bigger than the others, with golden bands around his arms that showed high rank. "Why do you stand? Are human legs so weak that you cannot sit?" The other officers laughed. Taiho looked at them. "I prefer to stand," he said. His voice was quiet but clear. The Velar officer smiled, showing sharp teeth. "I am Commander Bellows of the Velar Empire. I have conquered 100 worlds. I have destroyed fleets of ships with a single command. Who are you, little human?" "My name is Taiho," he answered. "I am a soldier." More laughter from the Velar officers. Commander Bellows leaned forward on his platform, his forearms crossed over his massive chest. "A soldier? You? I have seen human soldiers. They are soft. They break easily. I once crushed a human's helmet with one hand during the border disputes." He screamed like a wounded animal. Taiho did not look away. "I am sorry for your loss," he said calmly. Commander Bellows stopped laughing. "What loss?" "I killed him. I lost nothing." "You lost the chance to fight someone who could fight back," Taiho said. His voice was still quiet, still calm. "That is always a loss." The chamber became slightly quieter. Some nearby delegates had heard the exchange. They looked at the small human with new interest. Not respect, just curiosity. Like watching an insect talk back to a giant. Commander Bellus's eyes narrowed. You have courage, little human. Stupid courage, but courage. I will enjoy watching you fail at these talks. Your species is not ready for the galaxy. You are too young, too weak, too foolish. Maybe, Taiho said. We will see. Commander Bellos laughed again, but this time it sounded slightly forced. He waved his hand, and his platform floated away toward the center of the chamber, where more important conversations were happening. Taiho continued to stand. The hours turned into a full cycle of the station's artificial day. Other delegates came and went. They rested in comfortable rooms, ate fine meals, enjoyed entertainment. Taiho did not move. He stood on his small platform at the edge of the chamber, watching everything, saying nothing. A servant robot approached him near the end of the cycle. Human delegate, the council will begin formal sessions tomorrow. You should rest. Taiho finally moved. He nodded once. Where's my room? The robot led him through quiet hallways to a small chamber. The room was bare and simple, clearly the worst accommodation on the station. The bed was hard. The lights were dim. The window showed only a view of a maintenance area. Taiho did not complain. He sat on the hard bed and closed his eyes. But he did not sleep. He thought about everything he had seen. He remembered every face, every word, every small detail. And somewhere deep inside him, in a place he kept locked away, old memories stirred. Memories of fire and blood. Memories of a war that had almost destroyed everything he loved. Memories of a gate that had to be held, no matter the cost. Tomorrow, the formal sessions would begin. Tomorrow, he would face more mockery, more insults, more laughter. But Taiho had faced worse things than laughter. Much worse things. And he had survived them all. He opened his eyes and looked at the small earth symbol on his uniform. He touched it once with his finger. I will not fail you, he whispered to no one. I will not fail any of you. Then he closed his eyes again and waited for tomorrow to come.